I know in our last video we said that we were going to do the wheelchair review video next week. That was 3 weeks ago, so we are off by a little bit, but we made it out.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a review of my wheelchair. First thing I want to explain is that there are a few different types of wheelchairs. I'm going to leave power wheelchairs alone, like I don't have a power wheelchair. This is arm assist. But anyway, there are two different types of manual wheelchairs, folding wheelchairs and rigid wheelchairs. This particular chair is a folding wheelchair, although it looks and feels like and rides like a rigid wheelchair. Rigid meaning it's all one piece, you just stick the tires on, whereas a folding chair splits in half. This does split in half. We'll show you in a few minutes here how that works. This wheelchair is called the Quickie Xenon 2 lightweight folding wheelchair, or sometimes they call it ultralight. It's about, they say, documentation says it's about 20 pounds. We think it's probably more than that. We've never weighed it, but I think that's just the frame really that they're talking about. It is light compared to the old lady wheelchair that I had before. It's a lot easier to get in and out of the trunk, a lot easier to roll. Quickie wheelchairs are made by Sunrise Medical. This is not a plug for Sunrise Medical, although I will say if you're in the market for a wheelchair, this thing is awesome. I don't speak for wheelchair users who don't have the use of their legs. I'm a part-time wheelchair user. As you can see, I'm sitting on a bench and I can just jump right in here. Well, not really jump, crawl awkwardly into here. So I don't want to make it seem like I know everything about wheelchairs, but for a part-time wheelchair user, this thing is great. Before you go shopping for a wheelchair, you're probably going to need to start with an assessment. An assessment's going to be done by like a physiotherapist, occupational therapist, maybe a seating clinic at a hospital. What that does is they go through, they measure everything. Like this is tailored to me. This fits me perfectly. My legs, my width, I got a lot of width. This fits me perfectly. And so it's because it's been measured specifically for me. When I first went looking for a wheelchair, I wanted to buy a rigid wheelchair, a wheelchair that was all one piece, because that's what I had when I was young. They feel more solid especially when you're on uneven ground. There's no sort of swaying or jiggling or feeling like it's, coming apart. So I wanted a rigid chair, but the way our funding works here in Ontario, Canada, me being a part-time wheelchair user, that wasn't going to work. So I had to get a folding wheelchair. I did a lot of research on this particular folding wheelchair. There's a couple other models in the market. This one, by far, in my opinion, is the best one. Fast forward to our first trip, traveling somewhere, and you realize, I guess, how thankful we are that we ended up with the folding wheelchair versus the rigid chair because of the versatility. It can fold down, and the wheels can come off just like a rigid chair, but it can also split in the middle, fold down pretty thin. And on one flight we took, they were able to just slide it in the closet right inside the plane rather than putting it down in cargo and hoping for the best. I've heard all kinds of horror stories from different people using wheelchairs where airlines have destroyed their chair. So it's nice to be able to keep an eye on it and just see them put it in the closet and then get it out. The other thing that we noticed that's a benefit of a folding wheelchair, if you use public transit at all, or we used a trolley once in a city, like a hop-on, hop-off trolley, you can fold this up. I am able to walk up the 3 or 4 stairs to get up into the trolley, and this will just slide in the front seat somewhere quite easy. Also, depending on the car you have, it's versatile. We can take the tires off, leave the tires on, fold it like a rigid chair, fold it like a folding chair, and it works. One thing I will say is do your research even before you meet with a physiotherapist, occupational therapist, a vendor of a wheelchair, because people are going to kind of want to push you in a certain direction, and a wheelchair is a very personal thing. It becomes an extension of your body when you're in it, and you want it to feel right. So do your research and look into all the different options, and like there is literally 1,000 options, and figure out what's a chair that's going to work for you and that works within the budget you have, whether it's insurance or funding or whatever. So this is the second wheelchair that I've had that's pretty much exactly the same as this. We had a unfortunate incident last year, November, where an impaired driver rear-ended us, and the poor wheelchair took actually the brunt of the force, hitting our trunk and destroyed our car and destroyed the wheelchair. So this is actually round 2. So other than the frame, when you're talking about the model of the chair, the Quickie Xenon 2, that's basically just like the tube and the frame. Like when you strip it all down, there's not much to the tube or the frame of a wheelchair. The second thing, and I think this is the most important thing, having learned from another chair, I think your tire and rim choice is a really important one. The first time around, I thought that I would want wheelchair tires that were never going to need air in them. So I got a foam-filled pneumatic tire. Looks like a normal pneumatic tire, but has a foam insert in it. What I found with that is they took an exceptional amount of energy to push, especially on carpet. We went on a cruise, and Joy ended up having to push me around on the carpet most of the time just because it was so hard on my arms. The other thing when we were on that cruise is the tire actually came right off the chair. I was on a interlocking brick sidewalk and the tire got in between a crack, and when I turned, the tire pulled right off. After we got back from the cruise, I realized I wanted a different set of tires. I went to a local bike shop and actually just bought bicycle tires. So these are called the Schwalbe Marathon Plus. They're a puncture-proof tire. Apparently you can go through like nails and glass and they won't get puncture. So that was really important to me because the last thing you want is to have a flat tire on a wheelchair when you're somewhere far from your car or a seat. The other thing that you'll notice, and people think this is a bit of vanity. These are Spinergy rims. I think these ones are called the Spinergy LX. These things, they look cool. They've got the chrome here, the black, not very many spokes. But these things are like $900 US, I think. So it's definitely a kind of a vain option. They look cool. Apparently they're stronger, so we'll go with that. I got them because they're stronger, but I just like the way they look. They look cool. And the other thing to go along with that is you could choose the push rim too. I just chose the regular aluminum push rim. This does the trick for me. It's going to get banged up anyway. I know there are some rubberized options, especially if you have dexterity issues, fine motor issues. A rubberized one might help, but I am one of those weird people that likes to wear gloves when I'm using my wheelchair. That probably gives me away as a part-time wheelchair user, because I've heard that full-time wheelchair users think that people that wear gloves are lame. I like wearing gloves. It gives me a little extra grip. You expend a lot of energy pushing a wheelchair if your hands are slipping on the rim. So the third thing that's kind of important with a wheelchair is the front caster. Depending on the caster that you use, it does affect the rolling resistance of the chair. The idea is to make the chair roll as easily as possible. And these front casters, they're called a soft roll caster. They're nice and smooth. I got the single fork. If you notice here, there's just a fork on the one side of them, but not on the other. That's a single fork caster. They do cost a little extra money, but I like the look of them. They look cool and they do turn very easily. There's a few different types of front casters that you can get, and if you kind of go the cheap way, you might end up with like a little tire, basically like a pneumatic tire. I had one of those on a previous chair. I don't think they make the chair roll very well, and they don't look very cool. These look really cool. This is a 5 or 5 1/4, I can't remember, inch soft roll caster. My last chair, this is the one change I did make. So my last chair did have a slightly smaller caster that was exactly the same, just an inch smaller. The extra inch does provide quite a bit more stability, I found, especially when going up and down curbs. I always felt when I was going down like a curb cut that the chair was going to flip forward, and that extra inch seems to have, given me a little bit more stability. So I would recommend going to the larger one. So with these soft roll casters, they're basically just a piece of rubber that goes around the rim. You don't have to put air in them or anything like that. But after a period of time, they will wear and get little cracks in them. So you might need to change them every year or two, depending on how much you use them. My last chair, I was actually in the process of getting another set of the front caster, just the rubber, and then the impaired driver hit us, no more wheelchair. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about is the brakes. These are called scissor brakes. They just sit sort of under the chair and simply go like this. You know, you're in pretty tight there, and then you just flip them open like that. The nice thing about these brakes, as opposed to more of a lever type of brake that will sit up here, is sometimes when you're wheeling, you would hit your hand on a lever type of brake, whereas these stay right out of your way and allow you to, you know, to wheel without possibly getting your fingers pinched or hit on the other style of lever type of brake. So the next thing I want to talk about is the fender / clothing guard. This acts as both a fender and a clothing guard. I like this a lot. I know some people will just get a clothing guard that's straight. I like this because if your tires are wet, you end up going through you know, like a mud puddle outside or something. This will provide a little bit of protection from getting your pants wet. I know there are people, if you have to sideways transfer out of a chair, these might get in your way a little bit, but the thing I do like about these is how close they sit to the tire. Like, they're very, very close to the tire, and you can barely see them, but you know, they do keep my pants from rubbing up against the tire as I'm riding along. So this wheelchair has a carbon foot plate that basically folds up in the middle when you fold the chair up. I like this foot plate a lot. When you're sitting in it and it goes into place, this makes it more like a rigid chair. It's very solid in the front. My last chair had a flip-up foot plate that would completely flip up and be completely out of your way. If you need the front of your wheelchair not to have any obstructions, it's a really good option. I just didn't like it because it would often pop out when I was on uneven ground, and then, you know, we'd have to fiddle with it to get it plugged back in. And this one is a carbon fiber foot plate that just stays in place. It's nice and snug, and I just like the way that it feels when I'm riding along. So something that I didn't put a lot of thought into before I got the chair is the cushion. That's number 7 on our list. The cushion's a pretty important part because that's what you sit on. Now for myself, because I'm a part-time wheelchair user, I'm likely only in my chair maybe 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, but I do get up obviously to go to the bathroom and things like that. So for me, there's really not a concern about having pressure sores or things like that that a full-time wheelchair user has to deal with. But still, I ended up buying what I consider to be a pretty good cushion. This is called the Blake Medical Geo Matrix Hybrid Deep. I like it. It's good. So I'm going to show you. All it does is it pops right off like that. There's a little strip of Velcro that leaves it in place. There's a cover on this. So let me try to open this, and I'll show you what's inside. Oh yeah, there's a cover over the cover. Because this is a real rubbery feeling thing. Yeah, the nice thing about this is it can be washed. The chair does get dirty from getting in and out of the car and things like that. Plus, you're sitting on it, it's hot out, you sweat, you know, all those sorts of things. Here is the inside of this chair, or this cushion. It is squishy and kind of contours to my, that's where my butt would sit, right there. And then it's shaped so it kind of comes up between your legs, gives you support. Your legs sit there. And, you know, it's about this thin. There's a couple of layers, like there's this blue silicone kind of stuff and some foam. This thing is very comfortable. I will say, like, I could sit in this for much longer than I could sit somewhere like a couch or even the chair in my car. This thing is more comfortable than pretty much anything. So even though this is a stock backrest, there are some adjustments that can be made to make it fit the contour of your body. I have a kind of a unique shape. So all of these things back here, these straps, can be adjusted, and depending on where your body kind of sits, they can, they can provide some tension to keep you in place. So aesthetics, just my own personal preference. I went with a matte black chair. I wanted something that would age well, wouldn't completely make me stand out like a, if you want to do that, if you want to go bright green or bright orange or red. I did think about maybe white or orange or red. We just went with the matte black with the red casters at the front. And you've already, this red stripe comes standard on Quickie wheelchair backs, so it looks decent. I like it. Number 10, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. Number 10 is really like 15 things, but we're going to make it all into one. The handles. Handles are a touchy subject for people with disabilities, people in wheelchairs. I do not like wheeling myself in this with the handles up. These handles are just, they just kind of pop up like that, and Joy or whomever can push me around. I don't really like being pushed around unless I'm going up a hill or the terrain is too rough for me to push myself. When they're not pushing me, someone's not pushing me, I will turn around and flip these down, because the thing I don't like is that the handles sort of signify to people that you need help. Most of the time I don't need help. And I don't want somebody coming up to me and assuming, because there's handles there, that they should just grab onto those handles and give me a push. Just so you know, like 99% of the time, if you see somebody in a wheelchair and there's handles there, unless they specifically ask you for help or they're really struggling, just don't touch. Like, we can manage on our own. We have to figure this stuff out. And just because it looks like it's hard, doesn't mean we want you to come up behind us and give us a big push. Yeah, my wife is reminding me, ask first. And that's true. I've had people come up to me and say, hey, can I give you a hand? And I will often say, oh no, I'm fine, thanks. I know I was in a parking lot pumping up my tire one day, and somebody came up and said, can I give you a hand? Well, no, thanks for asking, but I'm okay. I can pump up the tire myself. A couple other things that I'll draw your attention to. I don't have them on right now, but these here things are for armrests. I have these armrests, and they're just literally a tube that slides into there and is one tube that goes up beside me. I don't like having them on most of the time. Not that they get in the way, I think they look silly. But if I was going to something like a play or a theater or movie or something I felt like I was going to sit there with my arms rested, I'll put them on, but otherwise they're just in the basement of our house. The other thing is there is a wheelie bar. On my last chair I actually took it off because it jiggles when I move or rattles. It kind of makes the chair sound loud. This thing just, I don't really know how it works. Joy normally does it, but I think you just go like this. And if I had control of my foot more than I do, I'd be able to flip that thing around and it would act as a wheelie bar. Fun fact, bit of embarrassment here, I don't know how to do a wheelie. I've tried. I just think I'm not weighted very well. Maybe my weight distribution's off. Tried to do a wheelie. I can't. I can get myself up a curb and things like that, but wheelies, like you see those guys in wheelchairs just sitting there in a wheelie, I can't do it. A couple other accessories that you might want to look into. Now, the chair does come with storage of its own in the back here. I call this the trunk, and I'll stick things in here like, look at that. I keep that. I have a few different tools in here that I might need. There's, I think this chair, oh, maybe it's in my other one. Oh, look at that. I keep a mask back there because we live in Ontario and we have to wear a mask pretty much anywhere. And this is a bit of an accessory, is an under seat bag. This is where I put my keys, my phone, my gloves. I did reference the gloves earlier. These are the gloves that I wear almost all the time. These really do help. They give me a little bit of grip and I like them. I don't care that I look stupid. And what else have we got for accessories? This is the best accessory that money can buy. I've got to put it on the chair. It's right over there. Joy. This right here, this is the accessory that you will want. I love this thing. I put it over, usually put it on my right side. This is a baby stroller cup holder. Like, you can buy a cup holder for a wheelchair, and I think they're like $40 or something. I got this at Walmart for 10 bucks. And I can just clamp this baby right on there. And I've got my trusty cup of coffee from Asmara Coffee here in town, London, Ontario. If you like coffee, you need to try it. And it just goes right in there. Often when we're out and about, I'm drinking a cup of coffee. So this is a very handy little thing. So there you have it. There's why I ended up with the Quickie Xenon 2 ultra lightweight wheelchair. This isn't even a sponsored video. Sunrise Medical, they're the people that make Quickie. They owe me on this one. This is a great chair. If you're looking for a chair, buy this. They're not paying me to say that. I'm very, very happy with it. All right, so I'm gonna say goodbye, and we will see you. I'm not gonna say next week. I wanna commit to next week, but I do have a videographer that I need to convince to help me with the video. I don't want to call it videotaping. Man, if I called it videotaping, like, how old do you think I am? You kids don't even know what videotapes are. Anyway, I'm gonna say goodbye for now. Thanks for coming along on my little wheelchair tour, and I will see you next time.